Now you've mastered the art of making the cube in one point perspective. So now let's take those principles that we learned, thinking about connecting orthogonals back to the vanishing point, using the vanishing point to connect all of those corners, thinking about things that are below, at, or above eye level. What parts of them are we going to see? Now let's take some of those principles and start adding some details, because our final composition isn't going to be a bunch of random cubes. So let's take these forms and start turning this into a little bit of a composition, and it's up to you what kind of details that you want to add. I'm just going to give you a couple tricks, and you can use those tips however you like. So the first thing, we are going to be making a road. So I want to put my road kind of right here in the middle. Our finished composition is going to be of a rear view mirror, so it's what I would see as I'm leaving home or on my way home. And to start off, my pencil goes back to my vanishing point, so my ruler's up against it, and then I just pulled my line all the way out to the bottom of my paper, going off to the left. Now I'm going to set my pencil back on the vanishing point, slide my ruler over to the other side. I'm going to leave a little bit of space in between this cube here, and then again pull my ruler down. Easy as that. Now I have a road. If I want to add the lines in the middle of the road, reset my pencil on my vanishing point, get my ruler pretty close to the middle, and then pull. Now I have a line in the middle of the road. If you wanted to divide it up so it's like a dashed line, things that are closer to you are going to be bigger. As things get farther away, they get smaller. So the line that's really close to me is going to be pretty long. So I'm going to put a little equal sign there, and then get rid of the line that I don't need in between. And then this line after it, it's going to be a little bit shorter. So if I just use my fingers to measure, I want to make that one a little bit shorter. And then just using the corner of my eraser, get rid of that. And then as I go back, oh, sorry, you couldn't see that at first. So this one is a little bit shorter, and now I'll make the next one a little bit shorter. Get rid of that. And then I just continue making these lines just a little bit shorter as they go back. If you wanted to leave it a solid line, you certainly could, or you could make a set of double lines. And I can be kind of like a little more efficient by just putting all my horizontal lines in first, so they're like little equal signs, and then I can go back and get rid of the vertical lines. And just hit all of them with my eraser as I go back. It gets pretty tiny, so you can always go back and retouch the vertical lines that you need to. They get erased. And now I have a dashed line going down the middle of my road. Now let's talk about like taking these cubes and maybe turning them into like a house. So if I'm going to add anything on this side or this side, the side that's facing me, that is just going straight across my field of vision. So things aren't getting bigger, things aren't getting smaller, so I can just draw things as they are on that side. So if I turn this side over here into the front, I'll use my ruler, add a little door, maybe add a window inside of it, doorknob so people can get in, little window over here. Now, anything that I add on this side, it is going to get smaller as it goes away from me. But just like the sides of the building stayed vertical inside of that space, when I go to put a window, let's say I put a window on this side, the sides of it stay vertical. So I'm lining up my ruler, the bottom of my paper, so I know that it's staying vertical up and down. Here's my first line, here's my second line. But the top and bottom of my window, I'm not going to draw it horizontally like this, because then I would end up with a really weird looking window. Instead, I want it to connect back to my vanishing point to show that the window is getting smaller as it moves back away from me. So the top and bottom have that kind of diagonal tilt to them, and the sides of them stay perfectly vertical. And there's my window on that side. Same thing if I add a window on, say, the second floor. I make my vertical lines, keeping my pencil lined up, or not my pencil, ruler lined up with the bottom of my paper. And now I connect the top and bottom, just like when I was making my cube, to my vanishing point. So I'll reset my pencil, swing this around. I need to extend my lines a little bit. So this needs to get a little bit taller here. That needs to get a little bit taller. And then it would be the same thing if I was going to make windows on this. So I line my ruler up. If I'm going to make the top and bottom first, line my ruler up. Maybe there's a big window. That makes the bottom. Put my ruler back on the vanishing point. That makes the top. And then vertical for the sides. And there's a giant animal living inside here. He has horns. Okay, now let's say that I want to start adding some details out to my landscape. I'm going to put a tree kind of in front of this house down here in this corner. Remember, everything stays vertical, so I don't want to end up with a bunch of slanted, tilted trees that are all going this way. People will start to get like thinking on the diagonal, and they end up with a bunch of slanted trees looking like this. That looks wrong. That's because it is wrong. So I'll get rid of those, and instead I'm going to draw a tree. Actually, maybe I'll put a tree down here. So I'm going to put a tree, vertical trunk, and I'm just freehanding it, not using a ruler to draw a tree. And then the outside edges of my tree, it's just sort of natural, organic, giving the contours of it. I could come back and add leaf details inside. And then this is in front of this cube, so I'm going to get rid of the corner of this cube. Now, I want to put another tree on the other side of this, but I need to know how big to make this. It's smaller because it's further away from me, but in order to figure out with 1 point perspective how small it should get, I'm going to use my vanishing point. Hello, it's like your best friend. So set your pencil on your vanishing point, get your other best friend, your ruler, slide that around, and just make a little sort of guideline where you want that tree to start. Then reset your pencil on your vanishing point, swing the ruler up so that it's where the top of the tree is, make another little guideline. So this just gives you an idea. This is about how small my tree should get. It should be somewhere in between this line and this line. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but again, should still be vertical for the trunk. And then those orthogonal lines, those little guidelines that I made, they just help me figure out this is about how small my tree should get as it moves back away from me. Let's try out maybe some different shapes other than just squares. Up here in the sky, I'm going to try a triangle. So I'm just going to freehand a triangle. And now I want to make this three-dimensional. So back to my vanishing point, set my pencil, take my ruler, swing it up until I hit that first dot, swing it over, hit the second corner, pull that line down, reset on my vanishing point, swing my ruler over, and pull that down. So every single corner connects. Now, the tricky part is that I don't have perfectly vertical, perfectly horizontal edges to that triangle. So what I'm going to do is line my ruler up with the edge of this triangle, and then I just pull it down, staying in line with it. So don't pull it like this, don't pull it like this, but pull it so that this line stays parallel with this line. So it's like train tracks here and here. And inside this space, I make my parallel line. And then same thing happens over here. I line this up with the edge of my triangle. So I line up my ruler with the edge of my triangle, slide the ruler over so that it's staying parallel, or I'll do the back edge. Line it up, slide that over, and then once I hit that edge, press with my fingers on my ruler, and just inside that space, I make my three-dimensional, I don't know, what is it? Triangular prism. That's what it is. Now, let's say that I have a circle. So maybe there is a floating circle over here on the horizon line. So I'll get rid of this horizon line inside of it. And now I'm going to go back into the distance. There's my circle, sorry. When I go to do this, the tricky thing about a circle is that it doesn't have any corners. So I'm going to use my vanishing point, and this time when I swing my ruler up, it's the first time that my ruler hits the edge of my circle. So as soon as it touches, makes contact with that pencil, that's where I want my line to be. That's where I connect. Same thing at the top. When I bring my ruler down, so my pencil's back on my vanishing point, bring my pencil down, as soon as it touches the edge of my circle, that's where my fingers turn on my ruler, bring that back. Now I've got a three-dimensional looking cylinder, but I need to make the edge of it here. Look at this space. What line does it connect to? It connects to this curve, so I'm going to make this same curve just further back in my cylinder. So here, make the same curve somewhere back here. Then I get rid of the lines I don't need. I don't need this, don't need that, don't need that. And then you can keep practicing adding whatever sort of details you want. Try to add telephone poles. So vertical, vertical, vertical lines getting smaller, smaller, smaller as they go back. Use the vanishing point. Add words in perspective. So I'll set up my ruler here, and I'm just going to use it to make a couple guidelines so I know how small my letters should get inside my cube. My cube is like my advertising cube hanging out up here in the sky. So inside that space, my letters touch the top and the bottom. So it gets a little bit bigger as it comes towards me. And then across, I'm also just going to set a guideline. That's where I want them to touch on the bottom. Horizontal, that's where I want them to touch on the top. This is cool. Keep trying out some different things and keep adding details. The more you practice with perspective, the better you're going to get.